Hi everybody. I hope you're all well. I had thought, or I had said that I thought definitely I'd be back by this coming weekend to give the review of the book. I am here to review, but instead, it's been 2 days. 2 days. So yeah, not much to update on my life like I usually do at the beginning of these reviews because it's been 2 days. I've been working and reading, not much else. So there we go. I have been reading this book, The Christmas Pig by J.K. Rowling, over 2 days, and also today I have listened to the audiobook on my phone. So technically I've read it twice in 2 days. So here I am talking about it. So to start off with, I just want to say thank you, J.K. Rowling, for writing this book on the build-up to Christmas, and what a delightful story you gave us. In case you haven't read this book, I don't know what it's about whatsoever, this follows a boy called Jack, who's right here. And he has a pig teddy, kind of a towel plush kind of toy teddy, who's full of little beans and such, all of his life. They have been through everything together and they are best friends until one day on Christmas Eve, Jack loses DP and it absolutely devastates him. He's given a new pig teddy called the Christmas Pig, or CP, who's right here, and he doesn't like him. It's not the same. It's not DP, and he goes to bed absolutely distraught. However, during the night, he is woken up by the Christmas Pig, who has come to life in his room, saying that on Christmas Eve it is the night of miracles, and they can go together to the land of the lost to discover where DP is and bring him home. And so this book follows their adventure going off to find DP in the land of the lost. So that is what the book is about. And I have to say, I absolutely loved it. I loved this story so much. Now, earlier this year, I read The Ichabod, which I also really loved. I loved how human and quite gritty and deep and human it felt in a fantasy world, whereas this one it's very fanciful in our human world. The land of the lost is a place where anything that is lost goes. So it could be objects like, some jewelry or keys or batteries or toys, anything whatsoever, any objects whatsoever. But also there are personality elements that can be lost, such as ambition and drive, hope, happiness, power. There are all different things in this land, and there are different levels of the land as well. So when you are traveling through the land of the lost, you don't know exactly where you're going to turn up, what it's going to be like, who you're going to meet. It kind of reminded me of The Wizard of Oz, that kind of thing of this fantasy land is so wonderful and amazing, but it can be quite scary and creepy at the same time. But what J.K. has done with this piece in particular is to talk about the concept of being lost and being found, which relates a lot to the themes that she's done in her other books. But I do especially love it when she does these themes for children, to teach them these things. So it covers things such as explaining death, the concept that things that we lose don't disappear from us, they live with us. The concept even of environmental stuff, recycling is a big thing with this book. We have politics again in this, and in general, the concept that people can be angry, they can lash out and react in certain ways, but deep down inside, they can be very different people. And to have things like that told to children is so important. But especially, I feel like with this book, it's one of these books where, say, a parent is reading it to their child is going to see it one way, and the parent is going to see it in a completely different way, because it has so much depth to it. And especially talking about loss, I think it is something very important to learn and understand. And as I said, that there are things that we lose and we find again. There are things that we lose and they're lost forever. But just because we aren't able to see things again that, that we love and such, that doesn't mean they disappear from our lives. And I just felt so overwhelmed by this very, very visceral story. I cried. I'm not ashamed to say it. I cried over a pig Teddy and a little boy who loves him. I just fell completely in love with this story. And I loved even the things to do with all of the different items that come alive in the land of the lost. So you have like sunglasses and rings and such, and then there are things like a voice that sings Christmas carols, because she belonged to an opera singer who lost her voice, and things like that. It's the concept of being lost and being found. It's such a wonderful thing to use as your theme, and to make these such visceral, effervescent images. I don't understand how she does it. How does she do it? She is a genius. She is an absolute genius at her craft. She truly is. And I absolutely love also Jim Field, as mentioned at the bottom, is the illustrator. So every section there is a picture which represents what is coming up. So I'm just going to show you part one because that won't give anything away. But look at that beautiful drawing of Jack on the beach with DP. All of the pictures are in black and white in the book. I'm not going to show you any others because spoilers, obviously. But they are absolutely beautiful. He's done various other drawings and such in his career, but I've never properly looked at his stuff before. But reading this book and then going back over all of his illustrations, it's like, wow, there's more to that than meets the eye, just as JK has done this many, many times before with covers and everything, where she's gone, here is the answer, especially when it comes to Strike's books. And you can't see it until you've read the book, and then you can see it. There is some absolutely beautiful, beautiful stuff in there. So thank you, Jim, for drawing such a wonderful collection here. I honestly think, I'm going to have to be careful here because what I was about to say, I honestly think it's one of her best children's books, but Harry Potter and all the children's books in there, they are stand-alone children's books. I think this is one of her best. I really think it's one of those books as well that adults really should read. I think it's one of these things that she knows who is going to be reading this book, most likely adults with their children, um, or children by themselves, and she has catered to both audiences. It goes at such a good pace. I never felt bored. I sat, as I said, and I got through 200 odd pages in one sitting, and it flew by, and I didn't even notice how long I'd been sat reading. I just wanted to go further and further into this story. I don't think there's any issue with, you know, restricting it to only certain age groups. And by that, I mean, because obviously I've said, you know, adults reading it as well, but I mean, like, even if it was a young child, say like 6 or 7, being read the story to, I don't think that they would struggle at all. So that's what I mean by that. So any child of any age, really, it's not a case of it's restricted to only a certain age group. Let me put it that way. I really would like to see this adapted. I really would. I mentioned when I did the Ichabod review that I would love to see that adapted by the BBC, something on at Christmas, to tell the story. And this one is exactly the same. You'd have to do it like a lot of special effects to get it done, and obviously Jack is going around with a pig teddy, so you know you're gonna have to do some special effects works there for him. What I also appreciated from this is that she tells a story all about Jack's life. You don't just meet Jack and you learn about his situation in situ, as it were. You learn all of his backstory, and it's really important to understand his backstory, to understand his relationship with DP and his parents and other characters in his life, including his grandparents at the time when this story takes place. I really appreciate what she did with that. And also, I'm being very careful again my words because I don't want to give anything away. The ending, it was so appropriate. It was so I can't even think of the word. It's just, you know, when you get to an end of a book, and sometimes when you're thinking about the book, you're going, oh, I hope this happens, I hope that happens. I never felt that because I was too like, oh my god, what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next, sort of thing. And then when the ending fell, I was beaming, and I just thought, that is how you write an ending of a children's book. That was, it's like, in comparison, the deep breath after the epilogue of Harry Potter, that satisfied, you know, you did it. And she once again, she did it with the Christmas pig, and oh, I can't contextualize how I'm feeling right now because I'm just beaming, I'm just gushing. I know I am. I think this was so appropriate, especially with, after all of the craziness of the past couple of years with COVID. I think it's fair to say that lots of people have lost a lot in this time, whether it be loved ones, whether it be jobs, mental health issues, you know, loss has been a big factor of the past 2 years, and the fact that JK has written a story which talks about loss but also talks about being found and teaches children that it's okay to feel the way you feel and go in and do what you do, react the way you do. But these certain things are important, and to teach that to children, especially at Christmas, is wonderful. So I think JK's done a phenomenal job with this. As I said, it made me think of The Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland, esque kind of stuff. A Toy Story. I couldn't help but think of Toy Story and, going off adventures and everything. And at the end of the day, a really deep, emotional story that just shone so beautifully. I loved it. I loved this book so much, guys. Today, I've listened to the audiobook as well on my phone. So technically, you could say I've read it twice in 2 days. There you go. So with the audiobook, now I got the audiobook through Audible. It says only on Audible on my on the picture for it. So I don't know. Let's see there. Look, it says. Oh, I don't know if you can see that, but it says only on Audible, only from Audible. Sorry, not only on Audible. So I gather you can only get it on Audible, but I don't know because I haven't looked anywhere else. So please let me know if you can get it elsewhere. But the thing with the audiobook, it's one of my favourite audiobooks of the year that I've come across. I'm just going to say it now. It's one of my favourite because this audiobook is quite different. The reason why it's quite different is that although you have an overall narrator, no, it's not Stephen Fry. I will get the name of the narrator. I am so sorry, I forgot to write this down earlier. I was just too excited after finishing work to to get this to you. Aneka Okafor. I hope I am pronouncing her name correctly. If I'm not, I do apologise. I will put a link to it in the description below. But she overall narrates it, and then you have various actors taking on the roles of all the other characters. So rather than her doing voices for each of the characters. So we have Rocco Padden, Jaren Howler, Tom Alexander, Rachel Atkins, Annette Badland, Karen Barkle, Nicholas Bolton, Saffron Coomber, Claire Corbett, Sandra Geyer, Gerard McDermott, Yasmin Mkwanza. I apologise again if I'm getting a load of these wrong. Jemima Penny and Summer Rose. And so what you have, as I said, they provide the voices for all of the lines of the various characters. Love that. But also, in addition to that, it's 360 sound. So it's best to listen to it with headphones, because I've tried it with headphones and without. Best to wear it with headphones, and you have this immersive situation with sound effects, with the voices. You have, weather like wind and all this lot, and you have music throughout. So as well as the book being so visceral and immersive, the audiobook has done these similar thing. So you feel that connection even though it's in a different format. I love that. I really hope other audiobooks do that as well in the future. I think that's a great way to immerse your audience into the world. Obviously that's more designed for children, but I don't care. I love it. I'm 35 and I love a children's audiobook. I don't care. I think that is so important as well, because just because it's a different format doesn't mean that you can't connect to it in the same way as if you were reading this book. Because when I was reading it, I was like hearing the wind and all that lot and everything, and it was absolutely, you know, in my imagination. But then hearing that in the audiobook and actually hearing like the panic in someone's voice, or someone being startled and such by an actor, it brought it to life in a totally different way. And it made me beam. I have just been smiling all day, thinking about the Christmas Pig, listening to the Christmas Pig whilst I've been doing work. And so, yeah, as soon as I finished work, about 45 minutes ago, I was like, right, okay, get the laptop on. Let's get reviewing and everything. So, I know I've probably just spent the last 20 minutes just gushing, but I can't help it. I love it. I'm going to do a very quick reading for you. Here we go. So I'm only going to do a quick one because of spoilers and everything, and I'm sure you're probably sick of hearing me gush how amazing this book was. But here we go. So this is from chapter 13, and this is Jack waking up in the night to hearing voices in his room. Jack knew that he must have fallen asleep because he woke in pitch darkness. People were talking in his room. He supposed Gran and Grandpa had come to see whether he was all right. He kept his eyes shut because he wanted them to think that he was still sleeping. "It's never been done," said a worried voice. "I'm not sure if it's even possible." "Of course it's possible," said a second voice. "It all depends on the boy and whether he's brave enough." "Oh, he's very brave, but it's too dangerous," said a third voice, which was old and croaky. Sorry, I didn't do the voice, but there you go. "I've been there many times. I know what I'm talking about." "Well, I've been there too," a fourth voice. "Most of us have been there at one point or another." "I haven't," said a fifth voice, which was slow and deep. "Well, of course you haven't," said the first voice. "You're too big. I'm talking about us little things." None of these people sounded familiar. Jack was starting to feel scared. Who were they? He didn't want to open his eyes in case the strangers saw that he was awake. "If it's going to be done, it's got to be done tonight," said the second voice. "I'm waking him up." At this, a whole chorus of voices murmured their disapproval, but Jack was more worried about the strange sensation that something was climbing up the side of his bed. He could feel it tugging at his duvet. It was small, like a kitten. He could also hear the rattling of belly beans. Then, before he could make up his mind what to do, something poked his face. Terrified, Jack slapped the poking creature away. He heard a crunching noise as it hit the wardrobe. The deep, slow voice said, "Ouch." And the second voice said, "I've just about had enough of being hit." Jack groped for the switch of his lamp and turned it on. Blinking, he looked around his room. There was nobody there. The Christmas Pig was laying at the foot of the wardrobe. Jack knew in his heart that he'd just hit the Christmas Pig. Even so, he wasn't ready to see the Christmas Pig get to his feet, put his trotters on his hips and say, "If you hit me one more time, you horrible boy, I'm not going to help you." Jack was so shocked and scared he couldn't move. He remembered Mum once telling him the way to find out whether you're dreaming is to pinch yourself. He tried it on his own leg. It hurt. "You can talk," whispered Jack. "Oh, clever, aren't you?" said the Christmas Pig crossly. "Jack is clever," said the croaky voice, which was coming from a battered old matchbox car that had once belonged to Jack's dad. His hood was moving up and down as he talked, and his headlights had turned into eyes. "Stop being nasty to him. He's been through a lot you don't know about." "I've been through troubles too," said the Christmas Pig. "In case you've forgotten, he just tried to pull my head off, and I'm offering to help him on certain conditions, of course." As if it wasn't strange enough to watch a cuddly pig and a toy car talking to each other, Jack now realised that lots of other objects in his room had grown eyes and mouths just like the car. The wardrobe had big brown eyes where there had been knots in the wood, and a mouth instead of a keyhole. His waste paper basket had two little eyes on tin stalks, a bit like a snail's. Some of the things had even sprouted arms, spindly metal ones on his bin and floppy woolly ones on his rug. It was sort of exciting, but mostly terrifying. You've got to warn him how dangerous it will be, the matchbox car was telling the Christmas pig. Otherwise, he can't know what he's getting into. There was a murmur of agreement from all the things in the room. I didn't know, said Jack, finding his voice at last. I didn't know things could talk. What he really meant was, I didn't know you could feel. He'd been very rough with these things earlier, and none more so than the Christmas pig. So, yeah, so that just gives you a small example of the writing in this. Yeah, very much when I was reading it, I was thinking all of these stories from the past that, you know, of things coming to life. So, you know, like Toy Story, going into various lands like The Wizard of Oz, having different emotions and things represented, things lost, things found, what it means to be lost, what it means to be found. It was just exquisitely put together in a truly visceral story that anyone of any age can enjoy, but each age group would see something different in it. And I wasn't disappointed. I was thoroughly immersed. I want to read it again and again and again. I truly loved this story, and what a wonderful story and such an appropriate time for JK to write and publish this story for children, to teach them about things, about loss, especially over what's been happening the past couple of years. It is a truly wonderful treat to have for Christmas, and to give a bit of joy to the world. And, you know, after everything that's happened over the past couple of years with JK and such, I'm not going to go into it and into what happened. You know what happened. You can look it up if you want to. I just think, you know, she stood her ground about things, and I can't help but go bravo to her for doing that, and for still writing and bringing out these stories and such. She's still, you know, queen to me, as it were. I separate the art from the artist, and I'm loving everything that she's bringing out. And please, JK, bring more stuff out for kids like this, and please keep writing the Coleman Strike books, because I desperately need the next edition, the next book. But yeah, she sent me on a roller coaster of emotions. I cried over a pig. A pig, Teddy, and the little boy who loved him. I loved every second of reading this. I have loved every second of listening to the audiobook, which was wonderful. If you haven't checked it out, please do. It's brilliant. One of my favourite audiobooks of the year. And check out this brilliant story. So, yeah. So those are my thoughts on The Christmas Pig by J.K. Rowling. So my usual questions: would I read this again? Well, of course I'm going to read it again and again and again and again. I love it. I love it. I'm beaming. Would I recommend this to anyone? Absolutely, yes. Anybody of any age whatsoever. Read it, enjoy it, feel all the feels there are. Would I read any more of JK's book? Well, she's one of my favourite authors, so you know it. You know it. I've got all of her books, so yeah, I'm definitely going to be reading more of her books. So those are my thoughts on The Christmas Pig by J.K. Rowling. Have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. Leave me a comment in the comments box below. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, entirely to you inside. And I'll be up my thoughts on my next read, which I've accidentally left on my coffee table way over there. Before I didn't pick it up before I started filming this because I was too excited. But the next book is The Shape of Darkness by Laura Purcell, her most recent book, because I got into Laura Purcell's book this year thanks to my sister, who's also called Laura, who recommended her books to me, and I've read all three of those, fell in love with them all, and her fourth one was published in paperback about 3 weeks ago, I think. So I am now going to be reading that. So yeah, I'll be back with my thoughts on The Shape of Darkness as soon as I'm done. All right, guys. Bye.